Okay, on my last video about thyroid, we were in discussion about the thyroid storm and about the knot in my face, and this is part of what happens the last major times that this has happened is my voice. I constantly feel like there's something in my throat. My doctor has not ordered ultrasounds. My doctor just keeps saying, we're going to take blood work, which I did forget to go to the doctor. And I'm assuming that's part of the thyroid problem too, is just being very forgetful of things. But I have noticed that if you cut out your soy products, your gluten, and a lot of the sea salts in some of the foods that you would not expect to have sea salt in it does. So please read your food products. Do not just grab food and think, oh, it's safe because it's gluten-free. No, don't. If it's got soy flavonoid in it, any kind of soy products, that will also cause your thyroid to flare. And it's pretty much in everything we eat, and it's kind of creepy and scary. Another thing that I have found recently that is in some of the foods is a preservatives that preserves meat, and it's called a coagulant, and it comes in some beans, which really shocked me because I thought it was weird that they would put a coagulant in beans, and apparently it helps preserve them, keeps them in a can longer or whatever. But yeah, that's a little scary because we use coagulants to stop the bleeding in our bodies. That's really scary to know that we have to eat that in our foods. I do know that the stomach does digest a lot of things, but when you do have thyroid flare-ups, you have to be very careful about those kind of things because those can set off a thyroid storm. Now, this time, the knot in my face had went down, but the soreness was still there, and it was causing my left ear to hurt really bad, and it still hurts really bad, and that's some of the infection that's going on in my throat. And this is all going through with the thyroid storm. Another thing that happened to me that scared me to death is I was trying to walk. I have spinal injuries, so it's been very hard for me to get around. I got stuck. Couldn't walk. Couldn't move my legs. Couldn't even pick them up. They had to literally drag me to the house. Like, drag me. Feet behind me, dragging on the ground. Couldn't pick them up. That kind of deal. It was really scary. Now, I have a wheelchair, but my wheelchair won't go down my ramp and come back up. So I can't take it out in my yard. So I try to get out and move as much as possible, which is not very often, but I do try. And I had, like I said, the knot came up in my face. It's on the video, and I'm talking about it. It kind of went back into, it was already hurting in my ear, my sinuses, behind my eye, and across the side of my face. So if anybody else has anything to add to this, please feel free to do so. If you have comments, questions, whatever, or things that you found out that you're not supposed to eat, please feel free to do that in the video because I would appreciate it, and I'm sure other people would too. I'm trying to share this because a lot of people don't discuss the thyroid problem, and I have found out that even 10-year-old kids have this problem. And it's sad because it's caused by the food we eat. And I don't understand that. I guess some people weren't meant to live by the sea. I mean, sea salt makes me blow up like a balloon. I can look like two different people, and I've been told that for quite some time now, that you're not the same person you were like 6 months ago, and you don't even look the same. And then I've had people see me out of nowhere and be like, oh my God, you got fat. And hadn't changed my eating habits. That's also another thing that's been going on throughout my journey with all of this, is one year I can be 98 pounds. The next year I'll be 150 to 160 pounds. People are like, and I'm like, and I've been telling the doctors and the hospital and all of them, I've never changed my eating habits. I eat exactly like I've always ate. The only difference is when I found out I was a diabetic, I cut out all my sugars and carbohydrates. And when I found out I was in kidney failure, which that did happen, and I got paddled because my heart stopped because of the fluid that was built up on my body. Not because my heart was weak, but because of the fluid pressure. And it was caused by eating cheese that had shut my kidneys down, and I blew up like a balloon. And it took me 2 years of fighting that to get my kidney function back up enough to where the doctor said, okay, I can release you, because I was at like almost stage 3 renal failure. And like I asked the kidney doctor, how is it possible that the kidneys can heal themselves? Because I've always been under the impression that once your kidneys are damaged, they're damaged. They don't heal themselves. Well, apparently when you have thyroid problems and you have lupus and a few other autoimmune diseases going on, it can cause this, all these symptoms. It controls everything in your body, and it is shocking at all the things that you can link to it after the fact. And I think that there's been a lot of deaths because of the thyroid that a lot of people think are heart related, which is just mind blowing, because all the symptoms and all of the things that went on in their lives all lead back to, a lot of people say mental problems, but it's not mental problems. I have a friend that's had thyroid problems her whole life, okay, and you hear my throat starting to clear up because the knot just moved. They kept telling her she was crazy, and they kept putting her on psychotic drugs and what do they call that? Xanaxes and all this other stuff, and putting her in a mental hospital. And I'm telling her, sweetheart, you don't have a mental problem. There's nothing wrong with you mentally. I can see that. I've known you your whole life. It has nothing to do with the mental problem. There's something else causing all of these symptoms, because yes, I get that you're depressed. Yes, I get you don't feel good. And when you don't feel good, you do get sad. That's not a mental problem. That's a part of life. That's real stuff. We're going to have fluctuation of emotions throughout our entire lives. You're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. We all have bad days. Everybody. Doesn't make you crazy. And a lot of people are like, oh, she's crazy. No, she was not. And I am the one person that kept telling her, it's your thyroid, it's your thyroid, it's your thyroid. Finally, me fussing for 4 years and in and out of a mental hospital, she finally stood up to her doctor and said, look, there's something wrong. So they check her thyroid, and her thyroid's off the charts still. And she's had her thyroid removed. Now, mind you, it's been removed from, she got cut here. It's been removed. And I am telling you, the child had no mental problems. But they kept saying she wanted to die. She wanted to die. When you get stuck where you can't move and you're in the bed and you can't get out of the bed, what do you expect you're going to feel? Oh, you're supposed to be happy about it. No, you're not depressed. You're not sad. Now, there are people out there that, want to die, try to kill themselves and all that stuff. They may have mental problems. But I knew her personally, her whole life, not seen her 5 seconds in a doctor's office visit. I have known this lady her whole life, and I knew she didn't have mental problems. Well, when they upped her thyroid medication, all that stopped. She didn't have mental problems. Like I said, her thyroid still, even though she doesn't have the thyroid in the neck, she still has off-the-chart readings. They still have to up her medication. She's not crazy by no means. The thyroid can cause you to be forgetful, mindless, say things 1 minute, not mean it the next. Doesn't make you crazy. It just makes it part of the real world. We have a fluctuation of emotions, and everybody has to deal with a lot of crap. There's some people that go through life and never get anything happen to them bad. And then you got people like me that have everything go wrong. everything. It's absolutely ridiculous. But I get it, because those people that don't go through a lot probably couldn't handle it. And the ones that do go through a lot probably can handle it. I've had a reality check my whole life because I've had a lot of crap since I was a little kid. 2 months old, got dropped in the Kmart parking lot, winded up in a coma for 2 months, had a contusion on the brain. Just, my mother was hit by a big rig tractor at the 6 days after my 10th birthday, October 11th of 1981. That was hard. Oh. And she passed. I lost my mother that night. She was going down to Reserve the Church to get remarried. Let's see. And it shifted back. At the age of 15, I got caught, let me go back, 12. My stepmother was in a head-on collision, and I had to take care of her. I had to stay home from school to take care of her for months. At the age of 12, my dad was in a car accident and killed 2 people and wound up in prison for 10 years. I lived on my own until I was about 15 years old, and I got caught because I was taken up for a deaf girl in school. The cops were called out to my house to speak to an adult, and there wasn't an adult there. And the reason I didn't get caught was because it was my dad's house. It was paid for other than the taxes. And I was driving his car back and forth to work. It wasn't the same car he got in the accident with. But it was weird. And when I finally did get caught, I was almost fixing to turn 16, and then I had already had a job and was going to school full time, and it was just really weird. But I've had a lot go on in my life. Husband got killed. Just a lot of things. Let's not go into all those. Okay, but anyway, the thyroid, life is going to deal you a lot of blows, and you deal with it. It doesn't make you crazy. But I want everybody to please, I hope somebody, I don't care if it's just one person, watches this video and realizes, hey, maybe I'm not crazy.